I've seen that since university.
Fun, insightful interviews from a wide producer. McKnight tonight. McKnight tonight. Here comes McKnight tonight.
Well, as a reality TV host, Osher Günsberg is the good-looking guy in charge, not a care in the world. But now the popular presenter is opening up in a new documentary that explores the world of pain. Osher, thank you so much for joining me.
I'm happy to be here. I'm sorry I don't have a bespoke coffee cup. Well, the best I've got is a water bottle, and it did have my name on it from like a security pass when I went to go. I don't even know what television network I went to, but my name was on there. Anyway, thanks for having me.
It's the details, mate, like knowing how to pronounce your name correctly.
I'm impressed that you've got a full newsroom. That's all I've got is a library.
I know. You'd never think I'm in my garage, would you? Hey, mate, this doco, it's really, really good, and it's a very personal story for you, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very grateful that SBS wanted to make another film with us. The first film we made was about suicide prevention, and it's bold when you walk in and go, hey, I want to make a hopeful film about suicide. Okay. And we ended up doing, and it won it was a great film, and it won a really big award, quite a prestigious award, which is kind of cool. And that does help one get the second one off the ground. So when it came time to get the second one up, we wanted to look at something which has a similar kind of societal impact as suicide does in our community, and chronic persistent pain was one of those things. And the end point was through my own experience. However, we then explored many other aspects to this, and there's like similarly with the first film, there's so much that I didn't know, and I'm the son of two doctors, and I'm a very curious person with a brain full of useless facts, and there's so much I did not know until it happened to me, and I just wanted to share in the best way that I could some just to give people ideas and hope that there is a possibility outside of what we might think is the only pathway when you start experiencing these sensations.
Well, it's funny you talked about yourself being an endpoint, because you are very open about your own addiction struggles in this documentary. Is there a sense of freedom being so public with your own struggles?
Oh, I think it's like anything, man. It's like what's Crisis Comms 101 is own it, all right? Because if you own it, then it's yours to then hopefully have far more control over. And
does that mean you were getting on top of it before any stories came out, or
I was very lucky that I was very lucky that I was able to the really, really bad stuff happened mostly when I was in America, and I was mostly off air in Australia. So I was able to come back to Australia earlier in my sobriety in a very different person, which I was happy to hear. I was happy about. But I think it's important because if you look at it and go, look, there it is, there's a thing, that was a problem. Treatment is available, treatment works, and now this is what life looks like and what life can look like. As my man tells me, he said, you get to live the rest of your life not being that guy anymore. And it's extraordinary to imagine that there's another side, there's another possibility, there's another way to live your life outside of such things. And prescription painkillers were a part of that, kind of final slide into realizing that I needed to stop drinking and using. And I was using such things fairly off-label, like a really long way off-label, but enough to know that they can be a problem. So when I started experiencing my own, started experiencing very, very intense pain, I knew that those things were not a long-term solution for me. So I needed to find other ways that I could manage things.
Well, good on you for that. And you do talk openly about it, and I really admire it. You mentioned your wife, Audrey, in the documentary. Now, I knew her as a makeup artist at Studio 10. Everyone loves Audrey, so you've done very, very well.
I'm very lucky.
But you mentioned that you sometimes rely on her to hide medication from you.
Oh, yeah.
How does she handle that pressure?
Oh, it's not pressure at all. It's not pressure at all. And, that's the thing. A lot of people really don't understand addiction. And, we're really lucky as creatures, as humans. We have three separate brains inside us. We have the really, really, really primitive one. We have the kind of language and kind of process one, and then we have the higher looking down upon those other two brains. And that higher one is the one that gets to look down at the other two and go, right, I know that if I get in a stressful situation, it's like if I said, hey, Rob, put both hands in your pockets. Now I'm going to push you in the back really hard. Do not pull your hands out of the pockets. Do not stop your fall. You'd be like, sure, no problem. I shove you in the back, your hands fly out your pockets. All right, you can't actually stop it. Okay, so the best way for you to deal with that, so you're not in that situation, so you don't have that reaction, is to take a step to the side and just be out of the way. So similarly, if I'm in a stressful situation where my defenses are down, having someone else to take care of that decision-making part of my thing, like it's not a burden in any way, shape or form. It's just to know that
I didn't mean it as a burden.
Oh, no, it isn't. It's like, so for example, like I'm traveling this week for work. I will check into the hotel room in Melbourne. And as I check in, I'll say, can you send someone upstairs to take the booze out of the room, please? I'll do that every single time. Now, I haven't had a drink in 14 years, 7 months and 20-something days. And I'm not about to start, but it just stops that little spinny beach ball in my brain, that kind of like takes away just a little bit of that RAM now gets to be redeployed for things that I would like to do rather than having that there. And it's similar to that, and it's quite useful, and it's important to know. Like you just have to know that to take responsibility for what can happen to you when you get to a low point, and you might not be in the best decision making capacity.
Well, that's a credit to you because I've known a couple of addicts, and they're still on their path, and I'm sure you are too. And you've made responsible decisions, and it's a very difficult situation to pull yourself out of that and stay out of that. And that comes down to what you're saying about getting the booze taken out of your hotel.
Well, it's understanding that, I had to learn a lot about how brains work. And it's understanding that your reward systems are dysregulated. And it's very similar to if you had, I talk about it when I go to workplaces sometimes and speak about mental health in workplaces. Very similar, like if your kid's got a peanut allergy and they're on, the floor at the minute of a birthday party and the cake's got some peanuts or some used a knife, that whatever, and they're having an anaphylactic shock and choking and not about to say, excuse me, Jimmy, can you please stop constricting your throat? Stop breathing. Like they're in the middle of an allergic reaction. They cannot possibly stop. So similarly, I have that sort of, that's kind of the level of what it is, but it's the reaction is around decision making and choices. So I need to understand that if I can keep myself out of having that reaction, then everything's fine. And that's what I've been doing for the last nearly 15 years. And so similarly, it's just understanding that. But unfortunately, you can only show somebody the door. They're the ones that have to walk through it. And part of me making this film was understanding that there's some medications out there which people may seek because, boy, they can do the job. And certainly post-surgery, I needed them, man. I needed them because you need to be able to rest. You need to be able to sleep so you can recover. But there's a point where, particularly with the kind of surgery I went through, movement is a really important part of being free of pain. But to do the movement, you have to be willing to be with some discomfort. And I think that's where people can sometimes get in trouble because their relationship to the discomfort is so heightened and so amplified after being in pain for so long. They can avoid that movement, and all that happens is they get down in this downward spiral of less movement and then, less tolerance to pain, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. But I didn't know any of this until I was in the middle of it. And once it started happening to me, I just I've got to let people know. I've got to tell people this is what happens in our brain. It's nobody's fault. It's just what your brain does to try to protect you. And there's plenty of pathways away from this moment because when you're in that kind of all-encompassing, it's like a sarcophagus. It surrounds you. Your brain starts to come up with some, solutions as to how to get out of this. And some of them might not be very healthy, and some of them might be permanent decisions to what's ultimately a temporary problem. And I really wanted to show that A, there's other pathways, and B, there's really, really smart people working all day and night to try to find better solutions. It's not like they went, well, we've got opioids. That's it. Moving on, everybody. No, people work all day and night trying to find great ideas and great ways to help people in these situations with less side effects or minimal side effects. And this is why it was so important that we showed some of these like really groundbreaking stuff. Really, I met two people I think are going to become billionaires without a shadow of a doubt. You see them in this film. And that's amazing, man, because we sometimes, certainly the last 5 years or so, our willingness to defer to expertise sometimes can be minimized. Now, I may like to think that I understand psychology, and just because I can read university papers and read the abstracts and get a bit of a handle on things doesn't make me a psychologist. Certainly in the same way that I am not an expert in pain, and I'm not an expert in what things my brain can do when I'm in that pain. So I'm going to go to an expert. I'm going to ask an expert. And I wanted to show that there are people who are dedicating their lives and their careers to helping and working as hard as they can. And we got to show a few of those people, because you need to be able to understand that there's hope and there's other ideas that aren't yours by really smart people, far smarter people than you or I, that might be better than whatever idea you might be having, which could be quite unhealthy and possibly quite dangerous.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's interesting. My whole family gathered around to watch the preview of this, and it was interesting because I've got a 12, 14 and 18-year-old, and it's interesting. We had to stop, and watch it in two halves because life. But my 14-year-old really wanted to come back and watch the second part. She was really, really into it. At the club was a little bit dicey there for a moment, but it was all good.
Rob, I'm here to tell you that whatever your teenager was watching on our little documentary is nothing compared to the stuff that they've been shown on someone else's phone. If you haven't had that conversation, then Rob, you need to understand that having that conversation is very important.
No. I'm actually joking, but I absolutely agree with you.
Kids are sexual beings before we're ready for it. It's sucked in. We better be ready for it.
100%. 100%.
We have to have those conversations early. Buddy, I know it feels nice, but that's something you need to do in your room. Okay, mate? Okay, off you go. You've got to. You've got to. You can't make it weird.
100%. What I was going to say is that one of the things my wife and the girls all were captured by in the documentary was the mismanagement of chronic pain. That is a big element of this documentary.
Oh yeah, and that's it. It can happen through, I'm not saying any of that mismanagement is negligence, not at all. It's probably just misunderstanding or, not being able to understand what might be going on, or that you actually can advocate, or asking your doctor for, is there someone else we can speak to? Is there something else we can try? Is there another? I'm not liking the way this works. What other options can I have? Not understanding that we are able to have those conversations with our doctors. I got very lucky. I had both my parents were doctors, and I watched them A, advocate for themselves, and also B, if they didn't know the answer, ask another doctor who was smarter in the area that they weren't not so smart in. So deferring to expertise. And it's important, I think, to show that GPs are superheroes, all right? They're trying to be a pediatrician, a geriatrician, a dietitian, a nutrition, psychologist, someone who can clean up a kidney tray full of pus out of something and stitch up a kid after a footy game in the same hour. It's such a hard job. So I understand why in that situation that there is a temptation. I want to feel better instantly. What can you do? I want to help you as fast as I can. How can I help you? And sometimes the easiest thing to do is write a script. That might not be what to do all the time, but it's important as patients, we understand that we can advocate and we can ask questions and we can, we still have to do what they tell us, right? You can't just go, no, I don't like that. I don't want to do it. You got to try, they're saying. But if it's not working, it's not working. I'm trying. But doing that also, if you're enrolled in your own feeling better, then that's also gives you some agency. You're not relying on other people to give you permission to be okay. Once you start taking some responsibility for it, it goes a long way to take away the helplessness and the powerlessness of it all.
Well, it's a great documentary, but before I let you go, I've got to ask you about The Golden Bachelor. Mate, You've been so associated with The Bachelor. How are you feeling with another brand coming back and you're not part of it?
Excellent, because there was 105 people. There was 105 people. I think we made about 105, 106 people. Let's say it was 105 who made. I think we made 21 separate seasons of that franchise, and I'm thrilled because 104 of those people still have jobs. And that is so lovely because I've known them for a long time. I've seen people go from, runners to camera ops, and that's, people who've, gotten married and had kids and, become directors. Like, it's just brilliant. I'm thrilled for all of them, every single one of them. And my former manager once told me that, unless you're hosting the 6 o'clock news one day, whatever show you've got, no matter how big it is, you're going to get cancelled. And what are you going to do after that? And so, Audrey and I we knew it was coming, all right? And in this gig, it's a fast yes or a slow no. And as the yeses started to slow down, we kind of had a look at each other and went, I reckon we got about this long left. And we started, just putting plans in place. And so that when it did happen, and we actually knew it was happening quite a while ago, we were able to execute those plans and keep the boat afloat. And I'm thrilled. It's a great show, and it's people love it, and I'm excited for what everyone is going to do with it. I can't wait to see what they make of it. I can't wait to watch. And I'm stoked for Sam Armitage. She's going to do a cracking job.
Well, mate, the media industry is tough. We all know that. All of us who work.
But I chose it. I chose to be here. Hyman Roth said to Michael Corleone, "This is the business we have chosen." I chose it. I could have just gone and worked in a bank, all right, and done 9 to 5 and Dolly Parton and gone home. I don't know, man. I don't know how to do anything else. And this is a part of this job. I've chosen to work in a seasonal industry. This is the gig, man. It's all right.
You're speaking my language. I fully understand. Osher, the documentary is called A World of Pain. It's on SBS and SBS On Demand. It's really, really good and well worth taking a look. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man.
McKnight tonight. McKnight tonight.
Wrong again.
McKnight tonight. McKnight tonight.
I've seen that since university.
Funny, insightful interviews from a washed-up producer with nothing to lose.